Devil may cry, call me Dante. Watching my enemies fading away, trading the light all the way from the day. Catch me at night, digging a grave. I'm a modern Johnny Cash, button up, that's all black. San Diego.
So, I understand why people in Ceuta and the Spanish government and the internet as a whole would be frustrated about the mass migration of military-age Moroccans into Ceuta, Spain. It is an absolute crapshoot. But there's a lot of people on the internet, chuds, blaming Jews for Moroccans invading Ceuta. I'm not saying that there probably aren't Republican Jews and people like Bibi Netanyahu aren't like, when that happened, since Spain recognized Palestine. And Palestine, if you didn't know, I'm not going to get into genocide. I'm not even going to have that conversation with you right now. It's not a genocide. It isn't. The population of Palestinians has risen since the start of the war. And the start of the war was October 7th, which was a massacre of over 1,000 Jews and Americans as well. So, no, it is definitely not a genocide. And I promise you that Jews are not the boss of Muslims. Not Moroccans, not Moroccan Muslims, not African Muslims, not Middle Eastern Muslims. Jews are not the boss of Muslims, because if they were, they would have stopped October 7th. I would imagine so, right? So are the Jews kind of clapping their hands a little bit about the Ceuta situation? Probably. But the thing is that ever since that happened, I think it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, there's already mass reports of sexual assaults, which are grapes, not the fruit. They say that they're sending people back, but it's probably not enough. I would imagine that the people that they're sending back are the ones who agreed to go back. So obviously that's an issue. You need to be a lot more heavy-handed about situations like that, because you don't want just thousands of military-aged men coming into a small town. Because what happens when that happens is really bad stuff, really bad, scary stuff, scary stuff. So we're going to talk about it today. If you got a problem with it, if you hate Jews, you're anti-Semitic, that's all right. I don't have hate in my heart for anybody. The devil's the enemy, the one enemy. But this is them looting a store. Because obviously, if you're going to migrate to a new country with nothing in your pocket, you're probably hungry. And you're going to be like, hey, I'm taking this. Power in numbers. See, they're like, oh, you got something? Okay. They're like, did you rape? Okay, you're good to go. See, they're just like, come on. They're just like patting them on the back as they're running out. These women are like, oh, they're cute. Not really. I just saw a video the other day. If I find it, I'll play it for you guys. Of a pregnant woman just, like talking to an interviewer, and she was crying, just scared. She can't go outside at night, literally at risk. She cannot go outside at night for risking her baby. And it's ridiculous. Like, Ceuta is a beautiful place. But when you bring freaking tens of thousands already, look at all those Muhammads. And they're just stoked. They're like Spanish women, Christian women. We can just do whatever we want, because what the Quran says. And they're probably happy to get out of, mom and dad's house, probably. Just a bunch of military-age men invading Spain. But that's all right, I could care less about freaking Spain. Or the UK or any of these countries, really, because they all turn their backs on us and chose terrorism over safety and over order. And so I don't know, like when this happens to European countries, I do kind of feel bad for the English, and that includes the Irish and Scottish and all that. I feel bad for them. And I do feel bad for some of the Spanish, like the hot Spanish women, they got cool accents, cool language, it's like they're like Mexicans, but a little bit, and they smell better. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. Am I kidding? I probably smell like no, actually. Look at it. Just military-age men just kicking it. Chilling. Just give them all a line up. Already a bunch of trash. Just ruin everything. That's what they do, generally speaking, you know? At least they're not blowing anything up yet, you know? We can say thank you about that. You know, and I'm not going to play any news clippings or any footage, really, about the Carmelo Anthony case and how the judge got kicked off of these new proceedings and how they were trying to get a retrial. You know, they got a new judge and they were trying to get a retrial, and that got denied, which it's crazy because they're giving hope to this kid when he is lucky that he got 35 years with the text messages and his past of violence. He's lucky that he got 35 years, and he's lucky that they didn't give him a retrial because they would have thrown the book at him with this. But there's certain people in the country that want things like this to happen. They want racially charged violent occurrences to happen so we can further take people, you know, further not be united as a country, you know, because blacks, whites, whatever you are, you're an American. But race hustlers will always be hustling. Every day I'm hustling is the name of the song, right? So they are hustling every single day. Lucy McBath, she lost her son several years ago in a shooting. She claimed he was murdered because he played his music too loud by a man who shot him. Because he was black. Loud music, loud black music, black man, loud music, gun, white man shoot. And now I believe that she's either a congresswoman or a senator. Probably a congresswoman, not a senator. And Lucy McBath is getting connected to the Nolan Wells case where they're really trying to make it a race thing, but his homies didn't kill him. His white homies did not kill him, but that's not factual yet. So it doesn't really matter whether or not that's what happened. Race hustlers gonna hustle. It's like what I said. So Lucy McBath got a whole stint in government because her son was shot, right? And now she is hanging around the Nolan Wells case. And the parents of the friends of Nolan Wells are suing Al Sharpton for defamation, I believe. And I support it because it's absolutely defamation. They're trying to stir the pot. They're making up things. They're making people believe things that are not true about these boys, ruining these young men's lives. So I've been watching this. I've been following this pretty closely. I watch April Chapman, Unshakable with April Chapman, probably every day, multiple times sometimes. So we're going to look into her and Tamara Neely talking about this Nolan Wells case. So without any ado, is it any ado? Further ado? Here we go.
She's not a forensic pathologist. She didn't interview any of the witnesses. She brings nothing to this case in the sense that she didn't possess the phone. She doesn't know Nolan's cause of death, but she supplies something that no one else can, and that is the emotional authority that these race hustlers need to sway the public opinion and ultimately impact the election. The individuals that we're going to be talking about are individuals that make up the iron triangle, right? So the iron triangle is your black pulpit preacher, your black civil rights worker, and your black politician. And these three work together in cahoots with one another to achieve one objective and one objective only. That is to ensure, by hook or by crook, that the black community is beholden to the Democrat Party, not because the policies have proven to improve the conditions of Black America at all, but only so that they can retain power. And they do this in a myriad of ways. And this case is a textbook example of the iron triangle at work. So let me name them. The pulpit pimp here, that's the star of the show of the iron triangle. We'll put him at the top. We'll put Al Sharpton.
Al Sharpton, Reverend Al Sharpton. His title is Reverend, right? But I have trouble believing that man believes in Christ. Shout out in the comments if you disagree with me, but all he believes in is money.
Al Sharpton is an old school, former chubby mob rat, former snitch from my hometown of New York City, and his reputation precedes him. And this is not me slandering the man. This is me actually going down the list of the
professional snitch, Al Sharpton.
Race hoaxes that make up his resume. So Tawana Brawley is what gave him his claim to fame, and your audience can go and research all about that fake race hoax that divided our city and completely set back race relations at least 20 years. Then you have typically.
So the Tawana Brawley case was a case in the 80s, I believe. It was the first major Al Sharpton situation where he was the face of the activism of it, where she claimed that she was sexually assaulted and beaten and all kinds of stuff by white supremacists and then put in like a bag with like feces, all kinds of stuff. But it turns out that she did it to herself to get attention or to get money, because it's been proven that if you could come up with a really good sob story, people will pay you for it.
You have a civil rights worker. Now, Ben Crump, even though he is an attorney, he fits.
Ben Crump might be the only attorney who literally cannot read. Ben Crump, the illiterate attorney.
Into the civil rights apparatus of this triangle. So you've got Al Sharpton and Ben Crump. And then you've got the black politician. I knew we were dealing with the Iron Triangle the moment that press conference display when Al Sharpton called up Lucy Macbeth.
Reverend Al Sharpton, and also thank to Attorney Crump for being the armor bearers for this family, the Nolan's family. It's a really, really sad occasion that we're here again. I was just saying to my staff on the way in, it's like this brings back so many vivid memories for me and my own family, having lost Jordan to unnecessary gun violence in November.
Having lost Nolan Wells to unnecessary drowning violence.
For 2012, Black Friday, simply because he was Black and playing loud music in his car. And so here we are again today, here for the loss of another Black young man in our community.
He drowned.
And we find ourselves asking the same questions. How did it happen?
I believe it was intense and extensive consumption of alcohol and trying to get laid. That's what it seems to be at this point. I know that you cannot 100% prove that those white boys did not kill him intentionally, but I feel like this is just a family of Nolan Wells trying to punish these boys for not being better friends of Nolan and looking out for him, knowing he was a little bit intoxicated and sticking with him so nothing happened. So yeah, maybe they could have been better friends. Maybe that is a legitimate grievance, but it was not a racial attack. These were his friends, but these are young men. You know, when I was in my early 20s, you couldn't count on me to count 1, 2, 3. All right. So these boys, I am fairly certain that this is not a crazy racist case, and it is a case of you should not drink a lot of alcohol and go to a river.
Why did it happen? This family stands here demanding answers. This family deserves answers. I myself sought the same.
This family makes assumptions. This family makes allegations. This family slanders people. That's what's been happening. And uses the tears because the Nolan Wells Wansley, the mother of Nolan Wells, her tears, because she's a little pretty light-skinned Black lady, you know, and so you could just squeeze those tears out of her and it just boom. We got freaking airtime because of this, and that's what it is. You got pulpit pimp ex-blimp, freaking Al Sharpton. You got, I'm blanking on her name, and then I swear, I would put money on it. Miss Wells Wansley is going to do a governmental run. She's going to run for Congress. She's going to do something. She's going to be mayor. I don't know, but she's going to run for something.
And justice for my son, Jordan, that they're seeking for theirs, and they deserve answers, and they deserve justice. Justice that should not be denied this family, or should ever be denied to any of our children or lost loved ones.
What does that sound like to you? Justice shouldn't be denied for anybody. When it's like, if somebody dies because they weren't paying attention and step in front of a car and get hit by a car, do you demand justice from the car? Generally speaking, no, you don't. But when something happens and you could potentially blame it on white people, you got everybody. You got freaking the Avengers of grievance race hustlers.
Member of the Congressional Black Caucus. I'm the second vice chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. We are demanding.
Quit talking about the Congressional Black Caucus. What does that have to do about an 18-year-old drowning?
A full federal investigation. Kash Patel, we're demanding a full federal investigation as to what has actually happened to Nolan Wells. We want to make sure that every stone is unturned because his life matters.
So did the guy who wasn't paying attention when he crossed the street and got hit by a car.
Our children's and our families' lives matter. And we must fight back. We must stand up and we must demand accountability for this.
We must demand accountability from H, from 2, and from the letter O. And also alcohol and hoes.
This family's loss. We cannot turn a blind eye to what continues to happen again and again and again. That's the reason why I ran for Congress. To make sure that we continue to put a face.
To make sure the next time water does something to somebody, we catch them in the act.
What's happening to our families and our communities every single day.
Translation. That's the reason why she became a social justice warrior, social justice activist.
We must say Nolan's name. Amen. Say his name. Lift his name. And as the national Black journalist of this country, you have the ability to be able to lift this story and not let it die. We see over and over again these kinds of tragedies in our communities that continue to happen. And they make it to CNN. They make it to MSN Now. They make it to our local news for maybe 30 days, if that. And then the stories are gone. And the carnage is left with the families and the communities that have lost.
I honestly think that we should sue Jack Daniels and H2O over this. But you hear how she's talking. She's got that whole Southern Baptist, like, oh, me up, you know what I mean? Very dramatic, very much like, say his name. We want justice. Because when you talk like that for long enough, people start to forget what you're talking about. And you forget that the boy was young, drinking, and trying to get laid. So he got too drunk, trying to get laid, on the water, drown. You forget about that. Because with Lucy McBath talking, all of a sudden, you think you're in 1960s Birmingham and they're sicking dogs on you. But I promise you, you're not in Birmingham. And whatever that freaking injury on your ass is, it is not a dog bite from the police canines. I promise you. I don't know what it is, if it is, but it ain't that. It ain't Birmingham, MLK Jr., 1960s.
Someone that they love.
I am a man.
So I thank the National Black Journalist. Thank you for lifting this family story. Do not let it die.
Thank you for all the dollars that are running in and all the calls that I'm getting, because it's been a long time since people paid attention to me. My 15 minutes of fame was about 10 years ago.
Continue to say his name. Continue to tell his story, because they deserve justice, and it matters. It mattered for me. It mattered for Trayvon. It mattered for Eric Brown. It matters for all of our loved ones that we have lost.
This is very, very important. Do you mind if I go ahead and give the audience a rundown of who Lucy is?
I don't mind at all. You have the full floor. One thing about you is you're a great teacher. God has given you great gifts. And so you just go ahead and let us know whatever you have on your heart. We're all.
Amen. Both of them, Tamara Neely and April Chapman. You got to look both of them up. They do conservative media so well. And keep it Christian. And keep scripture in it. And keep prayer in it. And it's awesome. I listen to April just about every day. And if you haven't checked out A Righteous Perspective, I don't know what you're doing. You should do that.
Got you. All right. Lucy McBath. She is a sitting congresswoman.
Hold up one
literally-
second. Sorry to cut you off there.
Mhm.
Just so the audience is aware, Lucy is the lady I showed you at the beginning of the show. Maybe some of you are just now hopping in, but Lucy is the lady who I talked to you about last week. At the time, I thought maybe she was Ben Crump's a new lawyer on the team or something. I didn't know who this lady was. And then I get a text from April and she's telling me, actually, there's more to Lucy. So that's who we're talking about here.
Right. So she was the fair-skinned woman that Al Sharpton brought up to the podium. And Lucy's from my stage. Lucy McBath is a sitting congresswoman from Georgia's 6th district. That's right here in Metro Atlanta.
Mhm.
And the reason why she's so integral to this story is because she had a son by the name of Jordan Davis, and he was gunned down and shot to death. And his death is foundational to her whole political identity. So, for example, if you go to her congressional website, she readily admits that Jordan's murder, and we'll talk a little bit about the details surrounding his murder, but his murder is what propelled her into this whole gun control advocacy and ultimately pushed her to run for Congress. Lucy McBath has successfully transformed a legitimate, do hear me clearly, this is a legitimate personal tragedy, but she's turned it into the central component of who she is politically, and that is undeniable. All you have to do, back in 2018, she
Amen.
wrote that Jordan's murder is what transformed her into the activist and eventually inspired her congressional run.
Some would say an innocent man went to prison because of that. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about that case. I need to refresh on it. But some would say
about her son Jordan's death, and she always positions her narrative alongside other Black mothers whose children have died in prominent cases. So, to be clear, what
Sisterhood of the Traveling Dead Son
happened to her son, the devil is in the details, is legit. But when I explain it to you, you will understand why she was at that press conference. Now, I'm going to give y'all, I'm going to be quick and brief. Back in 2012, her son was 17 years old, Jordan Davis. He is sitting with his friends in an SUV down in Jacksonville, Florida, at a gas station. A white guy, his name was Michael Dunn. He's 45-year-old white dude, parks beside him. They are playing really, really loud music. White guy objects to the loud rap music coming from the car. They get into a verbal altercation.
See, and right there, that's where the story, this is where the story actually happens. But that case was about hiding information, which is about what a lot of these cases is about hiding information. Because it's like the altercation part is something that was hidden by people like Lucy McBath and Al Sharpton. So you could say he hears rap music, sees black, and just starts firing at the dark figures in the car with the 808s. But that's not what happened. Should that man have came up and asked YNs to turn their music down? No, because that never ends well. But I feel like there's a little bit more to it, quite a bit more to it, than the story that made this lady famous and some would say quite wealthy.
Confrontation ensues. The white guy, Dunn, retrieves a handgun and he fires 10 shots at the SUV and kills Jordan. It is very sad. It is very tragic. There was no weapon in these teenagers' vehicle. Now, there was no mystery about whether another human.
See, I wouldn't say innocent. Definitely not innocent man went to prison, but probably a man who thought that he was having a standoff, but these kids might have been bluffing. Because I would imagine that he didn't really understand what they were saying, but it sounded like, we're going to shoot you. Or something like that. I don't know. I'm sure he was somewhat racist or something like that. You don't come up to a group of teenagers and tell them to turn their music down, regardless of the color of them. But still, this is what made that woman famous. A lot different than the Nolan Wells. He's trying to get in the pants of some girls and is very drunk on the water tale.
Killed Jordan. I just told you there was a shooter. We know his name. There was a firearm. We know that. There were eyewitnesses. Bullet trajectories. You have a whole identifiable victim and a defendant. A criminal prosecution happened. Done.
And for the Nolan Wells case, all you have is water, alcohol, and white friends.
Claims the white guy, self-defense. The prosecutors argue that, listen, this man became so enraged when Jordan challenged him and refused to comply with the white guy's demand concerning the music. You're not going to get it. I'm going to be fair. I'm like, listen, okay, this whole scenario could have been handled different. Granted, loud music is a nuisance, but you can't get so overcome with rage that you decide you're going to pull out a gun.
I mean, honestly, you hear loud music in a group of people in a car, you should probably leave it alone. I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't start that fight for sure. And I definitely wouldn't. If I was strapped at the moment, I would not shoot those people, regardless of what. That is pretty crazy. That is pretty nuts.
And start shooting people. And so there was a trial and a retrial. And the prosecution categorized Dunn as someone who became overly angry over being disrespected by this 17-year-old kid that he shot.
Which is understandable, but those kids were overcome with anger when he came up and told them to turn their music down. It's like we're in our own car. I kind of understand it, overcome with anger. I don't think he should still be in prison for it, but I doubt it was a fully racial thing. I don't think it was those dirt, you know what I mean? I just do not think that's what it was.
To kill him. Dunn gets convicted of first-degree murder. His conviction is then affirmed on appeal. So here's what we can accurately say about what happened to Lucy McBath's son. First-degree murder was the conviction, okay? It was not some judicial finding that discovered that he was shot because he was Black, but an argument can be made that this individual held some bias or prejudicial or racist views, so much so that he became enraged and he shoots the boy, killing an unarmed teenager. I will never take that away from Lucy McBath. Jordan Davis was murdered. Nolan Wells died. We're still trying to determine how.
She put it perfectly. I can't remember the other, the McBath son. I can't remember his name. He was murdered. For sure. Maybe it wasn't super premeditated, but that man was shot and killed. Nolan Wells, it seems like it was a freak accident. That's what makes it suspicious. That's what makes it very clearly a race hustle. It's a ploy for the midterms. They're trying to wield as much power going up to the midterms as possible and make conservatism look as bad as possible going up to the midterms, because that's what they do. That's what we do. You got to fight. I understand that part. But this whole situation is filled with dishonesty and lies. And thank God Nolan Wells' friends' parents have money, because those kids, I'm like 99.9% certain they're innocent of any sort of, violent murder, racism, whatever, that ended in Nolan Wells' death. So I am hoping that Al Sharpton just gets dragged through the mud, because he's never had that moment where everybody pointed at him and said, fat, stupid, liar, race hustler, grifter, fat, liar, full of it, snitch, used to be fat. Now, with the whatever that medication they take is now, that makes all of your skin, Al Sharpton used to be fat, is what I'm getting at.
Oh, Nolan died. Those sentences, they're not interchangeable. So why did they bring Lucy McBath onto that stage? I told you, this is how the Iron Triangle works. Al Sharpton is your Black preacher and an activist. He serves double duty. Ben Crump, Black civil rights legal apparatus representative. Then you got Lucy McBath. She's your Black politician. They needed to bring the trifecta together. McBath is not there because she can tell us anything about what happened on Horn Island. She wasn't there. She's not a forensic pathologist. She didn't interview any of the witnesses. She brings nothing to this case in the sense that she didn't possess the phone. She doesn't know Nolan's cause of death, but she supplies something that no one else can, and that is the emotional authority that these race hustlers need to sway the public opinion.
Thank you so much, April. Because I've been aware of the Iron Triangle for some time now. But that is so true. Finally, they have the politician, they have the race grifter, and they have the pulpit pimp, and the Iron Triangle is complete. They got a lot of America, and I'm talking Black America for the most part, in their feelings. Lucy McBath, they got people in their feelings. Because this is a very common thing in the hood or in the black community, where it's like the white folks are out to get us, which that isn't 100% true. I mean, that racism does exist, but the Iron Triangle is what makes that idea continue and perpetuate throughout the years. And I know that everybody looks at MLK Jr. as if he is some deity, like a god almost. People know more of what he said than anything that was in Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, right? But if you look at the life of American blacks, freed slaves, after he died and before he was born, it's completely different. Because after he died, it's you owe us something, America, which is not how freed slaves were like after slavery. They wanted their own piece of America that was the same, if not better, than what white America had built. And if you ask me, a lot of what they had built before the civil rights movement destroyed it all was absolutely amazing. All of these HBCUs. Just read Coming Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington, the man who started Tuskegee University. Just amazing stuff. But that's the Iron Triangle right here. What you believe about the Nolan Wells case is a lie. Forget it, forget it, forget it, forget it. And Al Sharpton and Ben Crump are fat, liars, grifters, snitches, fat. And my name is Spark. Have a good day. Like, share, subscribe.